morning, everybody. So, my name is Suresh. I'm the founder of a company called OrangeScape. We have two products. One is OrangeScape itself is a platform to build apps, especially web apps. It's a platform as a service. We're one of those top 10 companies featured in Forrester and Gartner. That's an enterprise product. The second one is actually a business process management software. It's a SaaS. It's called KissFlow. It's targeted for Google Apps customers. We have 10,000 customers there. We have users who are using our product from 108 countries daily, every day. So that's a little bit of background about myself. This is a small change in agenda. So I was a bit surprised that it says scaling as a topic, but I've prepared for something else. I'm still going to stick to that original agenda which I had. So I use this format called 555. It's actually 5 screw-ups, 5 learnings, and 5 things right. The good thing about this format is, at least I have 15 points and I'll be done by 15 points. So if you don't like me, like when I will end. So that's the good thing about this format. So hopefully you guys will like it. I would still address scaling questions. I think I'll leave a lot of time for questions in the end, so I'll try to be as quick as possible so that you guys can put my questions. So the first screw up is, actually we went like 2 years ago, before we launched the second product, we went to US. We moved to a new geography. We were like doing very well in India. We said we're going to go global, and we raised some money, and then we put some revenue projections. We said we're going to do 2.5 million in the first year, just US revenues alone, and we terribly screwed that up. So the learning is, when you every time go into a new geography, it's a completely new market, new ecosystem, new set of customers, expectations, partners, everything is different. And we didn't quite anticipate that. We were doing very well in India. We pretty much assumed that we can actually borrow most of our learnings from India and go win a new market like the US, but we didn't do it. So some of you guys are trying to go global from using India as a base success. You might want to watch out. And if you want some specific input, maybe you can talk to me offline. The second thing, which of course most of us do, is every time you come up with a, especially tech entrepreneurs do this quite often. They think they're like coming from a tech background, and they don't know sales and they don't know marketing, and then they go out for this expert marketing guy and an expert sales guy, especially in the early time. There is nothing wrong about the experts, except that they start adding value to your whole product and your concept slightly later in the time frame. Very early, you're trying to find out the market product fit. At that time, experts actually complicate things for you because you're iterating too fast and they can't take change. So they want to stick to a plan and deliver on that. So again, watch out for this one. It was not quite a screw up actually, I'm still healthy, but this is another thing that most of the young entrepreneurs do. Put pretty much 18 hours, I mean, even today I put like 12 to 13 hours a day, but people do a lot more and they get burnt out, they spoil their health and stuff like that. Sweat equity is good, investing in your company is good. Also make sure that you're investing in yourself, at least jog for an hour every day. The other thing which I sort of did is, every penny I had, I put in my company. I really don't have any other investments. I don't buy real estate. I don't buy anything else. Every single money I have, I actually invested in the company. But it was quite good in the early days, but then after some time, you do have your own personal needs and stuff like that, so you have to sort of watch out for that as well. So the last one in the first 5 is actually telling the bad news early. Of course, all of you know that, but the real problem here is it's very easy to say, very hard to do. Right? Let me give you an example. So we just did the first round of funding, and then we are trying to go for the second round of funding, which incidentally didn't happen. But middle of the fundraise, one of my co-founders decided to leave the company. So we are in this middle of this fundraise and we have existing investors. We're all rallying behind this next round of funding. And then we have to go and communicate that, one of my co-founders is leaving the company. And, I had to delay that quite some time instead of telling people early, but then it had other repercussions. People lost trust in me because I didn't tell them early and all that stuff. But it was a very tough decision for me. So, but I don't know how to manage it. I don't know how would I do it better next time. But this is another big screw up I did personally in my entrepreneur career. So, next 5 learnings which I learned. First one, for most entrepreneurs, if it doesn't come intuitively to you, I don't think they're even an entrepreneur. That's my that's my assessment. If an entrepreneur cannot sell, they're not even an entrepreneur. So, but unfortunately, marketing is not that. Marketing is not something intuitive. It's discipline based. When I say discipline, not as in punctual, that kind of discipline. Discipline as in like subject, like psychology, that kind of discipline, right? So you got to understand marketing is something different, and it takes quite a while to understand that. So if you are early in your startup phase, figure out the marketing discipline. It has a lot more nuances than sales. So just watch out for that. You may not quite get it in the beginning, but if you understand that it's a different kind of beast that you're dealing with, it will really help you to fix that. This is very specific to me, may not be relevant to a larger audience here, but people who are building platforms, for example, the first product we built is quite successful, but it didn't scale like the way we expected. Because it was a platform, it didn't have an application facade. Especially people who are building platforms, if the customers are not able to interact with the platform through an application, it becomes a lot more difficult to sell your platform. It took quite a while for us to realize that this facade is very important for us to succeed. But the time we realized, it's too late actually. So the second product we launched, which is actually KissFlow, the reason why it's doing really well when compared to the first product, because it's an application facade. So we figured out that we really needed, it uses the underlying platform, the original platform we had, but then because it's an application, people are able to touch and feel the application much more easily, quickly, and it's also cost effective. They're able to do it. So some of you are building platforms, just watch out for this, this pattern, okay? This may be relevant to most of you. Pardon me for this, some Tamil stuff there. So some of you know Tamil might understand that. When you're raising money, right, understand that money comes in different shades of green. So what do I mean by that? Is that most of us don't realize the biggest money you can get is from the customers. The most valuable money you can get from its customers, because it has no strings attached. You sell something, customer gives you money, it's your money, and no denying that. And that's the biggest money you can get. But not all the time you'll be able to do that, right? That's when you go to other sources of revenue. But if it's possible to go to customers and get money, anytime, that's what you should do. The second thing is, of course, go to the banks. But again, if you don't have history, banks don't lend. There are a lot of other issues. But luckily, we had some history. We were able to get 1 crore or so overdraft in our company. So in some early days, so that was very helpful for us. Again, that's just loan. We just have to pay interest. We're not giving away equity. So that's really very valuable. Then comes angel investors, and the reason why it's a curve like that is, on this side it's a different class of money, on that side it's a different class of money, right? So when you go to that side, when you're switching over to that side, you need to be extremely careful because you're setting expectations to investors. You're talking about transparency, constant communication, sharing all the lots of metrics, everything, right? And as you go up higher and higher, the transparency and communication needs to improve dramatically, and that puts a lot of demand on you as a CEO, the founding team member actually. So make sure that you understand understand what you're getting into. Oftentimes people start off on that side because there is no sources for this side, but just have to watch out for that. This is again, most of early times when you're building a product, networking helps you to get the first few customers, but it just doesn't scale. I see many times entrepreneurs continuing to network for a long time, thinking that they will get actually sales done. I think you got to stop networking. After some time, it starts going to burn your time, and the ROI on that is going to be diminishing value of returns, right? So you have to stop at some point in time networking, and then go into scalable ways of generating leads and customers for your company. So again, watch out for this. Some of this you might be obvious for you, but just that when I'm saying standing here, it's just a reinforcement of some of your thought process. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a tip reminder. So the last one, I guess, in this series is, so mentors are more valuable than advisors, or more valuable sometimes than board of directors. Again, it's a controversial topic. The reason why I'm saying this is mentors. So what is the difference? Okay, mentors, you pick them, right? So which means you choose somebody as your mentor. When you do that, your own internal respect to that individual is extremely high, and they don't have much vested interest in your company, and then they're giving you very genuine, unbiased feedback, and you're also taking it in a very serious fashion because you picked them. It's not that they picked you, right? You picked them. So that's very, very different. And as the line trends towards the board members, that line becomes pretty gray, right? Typically you get advisors with 1% equity. I'm talking about serious advisors. When you put somebody on a board of advisors, you give away like 1% of equity vested over 2 to 3 years, which means you give away like 1/4 to 0.5% every year. They have vested interest in your company, so there is some bias starting to happen, but then board of advisors are really good. But then once you have board members, they put a lot of money in your company, right? So a lot of the decisions you would otherwise made as a founder entrepreneur, which is primarily without having to worry about the money factor, right? You wouldn't be able to make anymore. So sometimes their inputs are very biased because of the money they've invested in the company, and they wanted you to do certain things. Again, there are some really class board members who are neutral to this issue, but pick the right board members. So the last thing, people often talk about delegate as much as you can, but the problem is in a starting environment, you first learn and then you delegate, because this is not true when you're grown very big, okay? So I'm all talking because I'm assuming the crowd here is early stage startups. So when you're in early stage, you got to learn, make sure you understand it very well before you delegate it to somebody. But then when you delegate, make sure they are successful. So you have to still stay behind them and make sure that they're successful. For example, when we first figured out how to sell SaaS over phone sitting in India, I actually did it myself. And then we hired salespeople. And then we trained them how to do that. And first few months, I actually sit behind them and made their numbers for 3 months. So they know that they can actually make the numbers, their quota numbers for first 3 months. That means they know it's sure it works. If something they screw up, they are screwing up. It's not that something else is screwing up. Okay, I'm pretty much done. So that's something that you got to do. The second one. This is something it's probably my character. I've gone through a lot of, roller coaster things, but one of the great things I have done right is I've actually kept cool pretty much all the time. I've gone 2 times, company went near bankruptcy, and then we came back again. And every time we went that, we never panicked. So as an entrepreneur, it's important that you have something like that in you, which basically makes you go forward, okay? The other thing which is good from my perspective, which I've done well, is I never hesitated rolling up my sleeves. But people say only in early stages you have to roll up your sleeves, but I don't think it's true. As you grow, you continue to roll up your sleeves on a daily basis, except that the task is different, right? In early times, you're rolling up for doing something else. But when you grow to a certain level, you're rolling up your sleeves for doing something something different. So rolling up your sleeves is a constant process that happens in your company. The other thing which I do very, very often, this also you've heard when many people, talent is, you go for the talent and figure out how to get good talent. Of course, the last thing, just make sure your personal life is extremely good, okay? At the end of the day, when you go home, you want your family to be with you. So come what may, whatever happens to your company, right? So make sure you don't screw up at that point. Okay, that's all I have. If you have any questions, not just on the slides, but anything on scaling, anything at all, just shoot me. I'll be open to answer that.
Okay, so we'll take 2 questions
for
the sake of time.
And this is my contact details if you want to reach me on Twitter. It's Suresh Sambadnam. Yep, go ahead.
Could you please expand on the lead generation techniques that you used for your Kiss Me product?
Okay, so actually there are 3 lead generation techniques that you could use. First one is it's a seed concept. There are 3 concepts basically: seeds, nets, and spears. Seeds are like for example blogs. You write a blog, you're sowing a seed, it's going to grow bigger and bigger and start generating leads for you. That's the first source. The second one is net. You run a program like this. You go and speak in some event or something like that. You get to know 500 people. You're casting a wide net, and 10 people will come to your website and sign up for your product. But then you do more of that. That's a net, and then goes into a funnel and then comes down to your pipeline. The third one is a spear. For the spear, what we do is actually, it's like, as a metaphor indicates, you're a sharpshooter basically. It's like a sharpshooting. So you do customer profile research, and there is easy way to get email IDs once you completed the research of a customer, and then we send a very, very personalized email. You can only send 20, 10, 30 emails a day. That's it, you can't do. There's one person sitting and doing the spear work. So if you send it to 30 people, 3 people will reply to that, and that's your lead. So these are the 3 techniques that we use. Okay?
Okay, one more, anybody?
Okay. I think I have till 2 minutes or so, that's it.
Hi Suresh, my name is Aditya.
Hi.
You were speaking about that misjudging the ramp up for international markets. What exactly did you misjudge? Was it the amount of money required to ramp up or something?
There are 2 problems, money and time. So actually I projected that we would actually do it in $1 million, which is not sufficient. We raised $1 million to do that, which was not sufficient. We should have raised like $3 to $5 million, number 1. 2, we projected that we will do something like $2.5 million revenue in the US market alone in 1 year. So it's never possible to do that. It's going to take 2.5 to 3 years to do that, or maybe at least 2 years to do that. So, but because of those expectations have been set, so you already told your first investors that this is what's going to happen, and now you've fallen short of it, right? So it's just backfired, and you don't have money again. You lost the 1 million pretty quickly. So these are 2 mistakes. So I think it at least takes 3 million or so to go to the US, especially in the enterprise sales. This is only true for enterprise sales, but for the KissFlow product, we are doing global sales across the US, across the world, sitting in India. For that, this doesn't apply. So for the first product is an enterprise product. It takes $100,000 for the customers to buy, and it takes salespeople like 10K a month salary in the US dollars, okay, to sell that kind of product, and it takes 9 months lead cycle. So if you put all these numbers together, it retrospectively this is all it takes. But then there is no way we could have done it in 1 year. So it definitely takes more than 2 years, 2.5 years.
Okay, thank you, Suresh.
Thanks, guys.
Please get in touch with him offline. He'll be here for some time.